Welcome to the Inspiring You Show. I'm Henry, and this, my friends, is a vibrational experience. Remembering of the truth of who we are. Content is not encoded to assist you on your journey if you wish to receive for your highest good. All right, friends, today I have a very special guest, a dear friend that I have known for years, Leyna Noelani. She is incredible, and I'm so excited to have her here and to be in conversation with her. So, Leyna, she was born in Honolulu and raised in Los Angeles, a third generation California, and she is a mama to two incredible children. She is a lover of exploration, a worshiper of the sun. My Boston accent wants to so come out, and pretty much all things yellow. And I really want to say that because it's connected to her company that she has now. She loves live music and she is just amazing. She was practically born with a camera in her hand, which is interesting because I did not realize that until many years later. And her parents would give her throwaway cameras until she was old enough for a real one. And then she would rush, which I love this part. She would rush to Thrifty's 1 hour photo and wait impatiently to see what would develop. All of you who are in my audience are wondering, like, what? Yes, that is true. We would have to do that. We would have to instill patience. And that's how she spent the majority of her childhood. And so eventually Leyna grew up and worked in television for 10 plus years, which is where I know her from. And then one of her friends urged her to pursue photography more seriously. And that was in 2010. And now she has a business called the Yellow Heart Photography. And I have to say that when she started posting her photos online, I was just blown away because I had no idea that she had this incredible eye and this talent. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring on her to talk about this. And also, she is dedicating her life now to photography and motherhood full time. And it's an absolute dream. And we will also get into all those things in terms of balancing being an entrepreneur, having and career transitioning, and then also balancing a family. So welcome, Leyna.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored that you were interested in interviewing me for this.
So, okay, first of all, I had no idea, honestly, about your skills as a photographer. And it's one thing to understand how to take a photo and know, okay, this needs to go in it. But you capture essence. And I had known you for those 10 years or so in working in television. And we were also personal friends where we would go out. And this was in our 20s and, 30s where we were doing some of those clubbing things and wearing high heels. And I'm just having images of
all of it. Yeah, that's how we knew each other.
Right. And yet I had no idea that since you were a child that you had this ability to see through the lens and just capture essence.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. That is always the goal. It's funny when I was in high school, like growing up, like you said, my whole life I had cameras in my hand. My dad is a geography teacher and he always had cameras in his hand. So I naturally got interested in it too. But he liked landscapes and I liked people always. And so me and my friends would do like photo shoots where we, set up the camera and I do headshots of my best friend and we'd go get him developed. And it was so much fun and it was totally my path. And then in senior year of high school, I had a teacher who went around the room and asked everyone, what do you want to do for me when you grow up or whatever? And I said, I want to be a photographer. And he laughed like in my face. And it was like, ha, good luck with that. It's so competitive and just bashing it left and right. And so I was totally discouraged. And, I was a bit naive and just like listening to him. And so I started thinking about, well, what else do I want to do? Obviously, that's really hard, And so I kind of went, this other direction. And growing up in LA, I knew a lot of people in television, and I thought, oh, that'd be fun to be on set. Um, and so it just kind of happened from there. But I think that life will always, if you listen, it will always guide you back to where you're supposed to be. And so I was like really always kind of still in the back of my mind. The photography thing was awesome and like something that I wanted to pursue, but I didn't know how because I didn't want to shoot weddings. No, thank you. They're beautiful, but it's way too much pressure and too much time crunch. And it's like, oh, I've done a few and I do like them occasionally, but I didn't know that you could kind of forge your own path and photograph. Kids are my favorite. They're beautiful little souls that are untarnished by the cold, mean world most of the time. And so it was such a natural thing for me with children. And I think once I realized that you could have a career in just photographing things that you wanted to photograph, I was like, oh, like I can make this what I want to make it. I don't have to fit into someone else's square hole or whatever, you know?
I
I
think
don't
what
know if
you're
that's making
saying,
sense.
it is, and I think you're bringing up so many points that I think I would just want to expand upon. One, I'm really sorry about that teacher that, that said that. And I just want to share that, I also had a similar experience. And I think that's what we talked about originally, about coming on the podcast to talk about, when people are having dreams and how to support, fostering them, even if you don't understand what that dream is or how they're going to make that a reality. And I had a teacher. I come from a small town in Massachusetts, as many of you know, and I had a teacher in 8th grade that, said to the class, okay, class, we're going to write down, what you want to be when you grow up. And we actually got pieces of paper with boxes to check off the box of what we're going to be. And when I looked at it, I was like, what I want to be isn't here. And so I raised my hand and I said, can I do a write-in? Can I write my own and check the box off? And then the teacher said, well, what do you want to be? And I said, oh, I'm going to go move to California and work in television. Now I'm from a small town in Massachusetts. I also got laughed at. And also said that I needed to be realistic and that there's no way that that was going to happen. And it was so confusing because one, I was in a Catholic school and that information of me going to work in television, it was from when I was like 5 years old in a like a prayer session when I was praying. Like I got the information from my guides that you're going to be working in television. This is what you're going to be doing. You're going to be moving to California. And there was such a knowingness. And it was so confusing that an adult was telling me no and laughing at me when I'm like, and I'm in Catholic school. I'm like, that's weird. You're kind of laughing at what God shared to me. I feel so incredibly cringy and uncomfortable in this moment. And then also confusing, like I'm being weirdly gaslit. And it really hurt my feelings and made me feel really sad. And on my own path, there's been a lot of doubts. And, television was something that I was so like, I know I'm supposed to be in it. But I think there's been aspects of it that I wasn't able to really let myself flourish in different ways because of that initial experience of let me hide in certain ways. And even though her saying no gave me permission to say yes, there was still a lot of that scared child in me because I wasn't really given the encouragement to butterfly. And it's taken me all this time to really give myself permission to do what I love to do, which is really, I love to hear people's stories. I love to talk and discuss and interview and understand, like, how's your life been going and what has been inspiring to you. And reality TV, which is something that we both were in, we worked in reality television when it wasn't a genre. I mean, we really kind of helped create it into a genre. And when you are creating something that people don't understand, or they're kind of like, oh, that's never gonna last, or haha, that's not gonna make money for long. And meanwhile, we were on the cusp of something that was really, forward progressing. And I feel like in some ways, for me, being part of something that didn't really exist and people were naysaying it, and yet you were part of a community that was so involved in the inspiration of like, no, there's something here, that it really supported me in developing confidence to make my career transition later on. And also, I feel like it's really just kind of seeing that the seeds that we planted, right, wrong, good, bad, isness, that now where social media is, where TikTok, where people are doing their own version of reality shows and having their own experience of like being an entrepreneur in a way that we kind of formatted years before in the progression of what we were creating. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think like going back to what you said a second ago, I'm so grateful for those years, even though some of them were a little crazy, but I learned so much and I found my courage. And when photography came sort of circling back into my life, I was ready for it, sort of. I mean, I was still terrified, but it was like, oh, okay, this is my path. And all the skills that I learned in casting for 12 years really translate into my photography business. Just, I can warm people up really fast. I've always been pretty personable, but I think it's just helped me feel more confident in that and to show up to every shoot and get everybody ready and happy and warm and fuzzy, and to get those emotions and that essence to come out is such a huge part of what I do. Um, at least for me, that's an important part. So I think that, it's like everything you do in life, good or bad, it's going to shape you and get you ready for something bigger. I
And it's
definitely
and
agree.
it's interesting you saying about like almost like the story dots where, early on you had a calling of understanding photography, and then how your path led you back around, and with it giving you those skills that you're going to need, that even if somebody's going to say, "What are you doing?" You're like, "No, I am doing this," which is then the confidence that you gained from the training of working in reality TV, which I'm just going to say, people who haven't worked in television or film and may not understand the process, when Lena was mentioning that she was in casting, she was a exceptional casting producer. And casting is I feel like it does not get enough love from the industry. It is one of the hardest jobs to do. And in reality television, it's even harder than scripted, because in scripted, obviously you're finding, certain people, but they're auditioning for these roles. Whereas in unscripted, in reality television, you're working with people, it's a documentary process. And many times people before, when we were working, they didn't have the opportunity to be on camera. And so they didn't even understand a lot of times how to be on video. And so you are like, I mean, I remember watching you, work your magic on set. Your ability you have to be able to connect with people really fast, make them feel warm and welcome, invite them in, that they're safe. And at the same time, you're teaching them how to actually be on camera. And like that is, and you're doing it really fast because usually you're so time crunched. And that is like a skill that I just remember just, watching you in your magic and being like, she really has it. She has the Midas touch to do it. And it's a very hard job.
I appreciate that. I agree. And I feel like in all these big award shows, you never hear like award for the best casting goes to, it's just such an overlooked job where, I mean, we had to find some of the hardest things, and it was before social media was a tool. We had to post on Craigslist to find people for TV shows. We had to go in bars and recruit, like physically on foot to all the bars and talk people into, or I shouldn't say that because I never really wanted to talk people into doing anything. It was like, here's this opportunity. Are you interested? And it's like, you are kind of selling it to people that don't always want to, or aren't seeking it out, you know? I mean, did you work on Who Wants to Marry My Dad for NBC?
No,
It was like we had to find a divorced man over 50 years old who is handsome, rich, has 2 or preferably 3 or more kids over the age of 18 who've never been arrested, who are also good looking, well spoken, like all this. It was like the most insane casting request ever. And we like hit the ground and found these men, you know, it was just like, I mean, anyway, there's a lot of work.
training, like that tenacity
Yeah.
that you're talking about, even when you're talking about when the network is when the network is giving their wish list, which I think
Yeah.
sometimes you like, this is not a scripted world we live in, but they will give you, which just kind of goes to show you where in your intentions, you should be like a network, writing all your wish list down. What do you want for abundance? And go for it. They do. They give you
Yeah.
a list and you're like, there's no way. What are they?
Yeah.
What are they thinking? But what's remarkable is that what we learned in reality TV is that the mountain seemed really impossible, but yet we found a way. And I really feel like that resilience training that we had, that adaptable training, that like roll up our sleeves, I feel like for me, it really helped me in the career transitioning. What about for you?
Absolutely. And I think I forget that nowadays, actually. I was just thinking about this the other day. I think that it's almost like it goes so unnoticed, the work that we put in, that, and not always, but, you know, majority of the time, that you almost don't even think it's that big of a deal either until you really sit down and think about it and think about what you accomplished with, you know, half the budget or half the time or half the energy or half of any of it. But yeah, I agree. I think that resilience is definitely embedded in me. And I think our work ethic is extraordinary. I mean, I'm the hardest worker from it all. I've learned to push through, and when you're sick or tired or whatever, you just like, it's good or bad. We definitely like showed up. So, but yeah, I fully agree with that.
And it's also, something that you mentioned about when we were just talking about the network wish list and not having the resources of, what is on there now, social media, even like, we didn't even have some of the where the internet was at some point. We didn't have, Facebook. We didn't have these things that were out there. And so your ability then to be creative in taking something that is necessary, like doesn't exist yet, it's just a wish list, and then to actually translate it into physical reality with the find, like it is just amazing. And I just feel like that should be some of the awards that we are giving people.
Right. Yeah. How long was the list and did she find it? That should be a big trophy status. Like, especially in the time before social media. I mean, it was like the things we did to find people, it's just changed so much, and it's fine. It's great. I mean, evolution, baby. But
Exactly, which I'm so happy for everyone. But I think though, what it's also given, or I feel like for me, it's really given that like, wow, it seems really impossible. But in production or in that kind of moment when you're getting something and you're part of a group and the group is about doing some sort of physical creativity, like putting together a TV show or even photography, there's a goal and you're coming together for that goal. And so with it, then you're like, this seems really impossible. And I'm going to have a moment of like, I can't believe what they're asking us to do. And then you take a deep breath, and then you then move the impossible into, there's got to be a way to solve this problem. There's got to be a way to solve it. And I feel like sometimes with creativity, like there's that moment of like, oh, I feel so uncomfortable. There's that edge. And then all of a sudden it just clicks in where you're like, there's got to be a way to solve this though. And then that's when you all of a sudden start getting the ideas, and you start like, maybe for back then you would be drawn to go to this restaurant or this bar or whatever. Next thing you know, you're standing next to somebody having a conversation. You're like, oh my God, maybe this is the person. And you're like, wow. And to me, those are the moments that are just lighting up, where the story dots are lining up, connecting you not only to the tools that you're probably going to need later on in your career transition, but also in supporting you in that moment to moment of getting over the impossible and remembering that we're in this creation and that anything can be possible. It's just letting yourself roll up the sleeves to allow yourself to problem solve and receive the information and let go of that mindset. Because sometimes I think people get into that difficulty of the mindset of like, you can't do it. And then they get so into the can't do, or so into non-beneficial victim consciousness, that it paralyzes them. And I feel like for television, working in TV, it's like again and again, we were just presented with just, incredibly like difficult tasks. And we had to then roll up our sleeves again and again. And so it helped me for my career transition. But I want to talk about you and how, like, that moment of the career transition, and how did you then, like, what was your secret sauces in terms of shifting into it, and what aspects from working in television that you really took with you? And then what was there anything that you were really nervous and scared about and that you've learned along the way?
I think the fear that drove me to stay in television for as long as I did was you work your way up in this field, and then you realize that it's not fulfilling you for whatever reason, and you don't know you can't make a lateral move over to something else. You have to start over. And it's like, it's a really scary thought when you've dedicated 10 plus years to this one career and you're making good money, and it's, the drive of like, I can pay my bills and I can travel and this is awesome. Even though I work so much, I'd have no time to travel or enjoy any of this money. We take that so much for granted, but, yeah, I think that the real kicker for me was, the first thing was my therapist and I were talking, and she said, Leyna, you've been complaining about your job for 5 years. And I was like, 5 years, 5 years. That's ridiculous. Like, do something about it. And I'm the first one to always tell people, like, if you're not happy, do something to change it. Move in the direction of happiness. So that really sat with me. And then it was, how do I do that? And I was kind of thrust into, it was twofold. It was one, I was gonna leave after my wedding. My husband and I talked about it. He's like, why don't you just, because I had already kind of started taking pictures for people, and I was booked every weekend for like 6 months out. And I couldn't work on the weekdays because I was casting, and it was a crazy time. I had a production company, I will not name any names, who after my wedding, like, really talked me into this amazing casting contract. And he's like, don't you want, security? And now you're going to be married and you'll have a steady paycheck and all this. He sold me this amazing dream, something we always all dream of in freelance world, is like, what? I'll have a steady paycheck for 2 years and this will be amazing. And then, that kind of hit a point at which after 9 months, they were like, we can't afford to keep you on anymore. And at that point I was so angry at the business and just so fed up. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is my sign. Like, I am done. I am done with all of you people who make all these promises and don't deliver. It was just such like a point. I had so many great memories from working in television for so many years. And then there were just sign after sign after sign that like, you know what? I shouldn't have done this, like I should have just gone on my path. But, and then the other part was, I had all these clients. Like I had kind of been busting my tush. I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss. My tushy. Um, so I had clients and I had a supportive husband, thank God, because I was so worried. I'd always worked so hard and made money and but myself. And I was like, but what if I don't book or, like there's all these questions and fears. And he's like, we'll be good for a little while. Just see what happens. Maybe your weeks fill up and, maybe your weekdays book and we can, maybe you don't have to do it anymore. And I was like, wow, having that support was such a huge thing for me. And then having these clients that were booking me all the time were amazing too. And I was like, okay, well, this is it. Like, I'm sure I'll try it. And that was, 14 years ago. 14 years ago. And I never had to go back. But for the first 5 years, I was like, I always have casting. I can always go back. I still have my friends and my contacts. And it was so scary, but I didn't have to. And it was, like to get to a place where you believe in yourself. I still have a hard time with it, by the way. Like I'm still, every time I do a post, I'm so vulnerable. What if people don't like my work? And then I'm like, nope, like you've come this far. Stop being crazy. You just need to believe in your work. And so I have good days and bad days, but
if somebody's going through wanting to career transition, what advice would you have wanted that could have supported you?
that's tough. I think that a lot of us operate in a fear-based world. So what if this doesn't happen? Or what if this doesn't work? Or what if, you it's so easy to talk yourself out of things. And I think if you genuinely feel a calling to something, the best advice I could give is, or what I would have wanted to hear, which I feel like I kind of knew deep down, but it was more subconscious, was just one step at a time. Just go for it. Like if you want to be a doula, go do the courses, go learn about it, go see if you even want to do it. Sometimes you get there and you're like, oh, actually, I don't really think this is what I want to do. I've had friends go to medical school and then they're like, nah, like, I don't want to do this. And it's fine. Like, don't live your whole life doing something you don't like because you already did the work to do it. It's like, it's never too late is another thing, because I told myself that time and time again, like, well, I've already been in television for 10 years. So I like to start over now. It's like, that would be tough, but if you're unhappy and you're living this, like with this gut, in your gut. I mean, I'm a big proponent of gut health and your gut tells you everything you need to know about situations, and we're trained not to listen to ourselves so hardcore. And I'm really hoping these younger generations are better at that than we were, because I think that we didn't know any better in our childhood. Adults were the authority and we're taught to respect them. And when someone gives you bad advice, I mean, the amount of bad advice I got when I started Yellow Heart too is just a whole other thing. Like if someone gives you advice and you in your gut are like, really? Like it doesn't feel right. It's not right for you. Push through and follow your heart. You probably know more about it with the energy work and stuff, but it's like, I just feel like you can really tune into yourself and follow what you love if you're dedicated and driven and you work hard. And I think that a lot of people don't also want to do that work sometimes. So I think that the hard work comes with it. Yellow Heart is amazing. I love what I do, but there's parts of running a business that it's not my favorite, but it comes with this other magical thing that I get to do for a living. So, yeah.
I think, what you're bringing up is a really good point too. And I feel like part of some of the reasons why I'm able to move through things I don't like is from that TV training, because I was doing things that I really loved. And I recognized that it was a part of the job that as my human, I had to settle into to do. Kind of like, I don't like really doing the dishes, but I do them because I like the end result of the dishes being clean and I can use them the next time.
Right.
And I feel like there's parts of it, right? It's kind of like with their clothes, it's like I like having clean clothes. I don't always like washing and folding my clothes and stuff
Right.
and putting it away, but I like having a clean house. And I feel like that's part of the business where you're attending to things that you may not love, but you learn to do as part of the business. And, and then and with it, then you're able to do all these other things that you really are genuinely love and you get to do. Like even for this, where Leyna has so kindly allowed me to try out a new software called Riverside for recording podcasts.
I hope it's working.
And it's working. It looks really good. It's recording. But I was really nervous and like, oh my God, is it going to work? Am I going to mess up? I mean, I had all these things to the point where I thought the interview was like an hour earlier. Oh God, if it doesn't work. But I mean, that's part about being an entrepreneur and also being willing to try things out because you're also trying to better the system in some ways. And so with being an entrepreneur, then I feel like you also touched upon sometimes sometimes people don't want to do things because they're like, it's not fun or that's not the enjoyable part of it. But I think that we have to start really encouraging people that even though if you're living your purpose and your dream, it does not mean that your entire dream is like, wow, this is so fun and just so enjoyable, because there can be moments in creativity or even if you're on purpose that you're like, "Oh, I don't know, I'm uncomfortable," but that's because it's growing and evolving. So how can you speak to that to support people? Because another thing too, people will say to me, I can't believe how much you output in my content or in my meditation groups. And Leyna, I'll be honest, it is not even like half of what I did in television.
I know. I mean, that's like the real military training of television, right? Is that we pull things out of a hat like so fast and everything has to happen by yesterday. And it's like, we have that work ethic now that's like so insane. And it's actually like, this is actually my relaxed mode. And I could be doing twice as much, and I did for however many years,
Isn't that crazy? I'm like,
Yeah.
You have no idea that I just went out for like a 2-hour walk and I was sitting in a cafe in the middle of the day. Like, it happens in television.
No.
My life is so balanced. Like,
Yeah. I feel great. It's smooth. We're good.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So for you then, like what would you like to help people? Because I think part of it is we just have to inspire people that there's going to be hard moments, people. And how do you what would you recommend to getting through the hard moments, and what has helped you? I have some big questions for
lots
you.
of deep breaths. Lots of deep breaths. That is a good question. I think that exercise is important. I think that balance is important. I think that when you are feeding your soul with things like that, it's easier to get through the harder parts of our day-to-day grind with whatever your business is. And it's so easy to become a workaholic, and I was for many, many, many years. And it really wasn't until I had my kids that I felt like, oh, I want to be there for that too. I don't want to be working. That was another reason why leaving television was a little easier for me because I'm like, I could not be present in my child's life with this kind of work schedule. I mean, it was 24 hours a day. Like you're constantly on your phone if you're not in the office. At least that's how it was when I was, 400 decades ago when I was a casting director. I feel like it's so different now. But you work all the time and it was grueling a lot, and I care about what I do. And so I was always worried about it. And so anyway, to get back to your question, I think that you really need to keep your eye on the prize. I mean, things I don't like to deal with, um, or hard days are easier when I sit down and really think about the grateful parts of the job. The fact that I get to go take pictures of people and connect with them. And like you said, connecting with people and getting to know their story to me is such a huge part of it. And I'm so grateful that I get to do that every day for the last however many years. It's been um such a, I don't use the word blessing a lot, but it is, like, I can't think of a better word. It's such a blessing, but it doesn't come without hard work. And you have to know that. And you have to choose to push through that hard work to do, to get to the good stuff. And I think that if it's not working, find another way. There's not one way of doing things. There's many, many avenues you can take. And um, it's funny. I recently, for many years, I was very focused on my vision and I want to shoot these things and that's it. And I'd have friends who would be like, will you come do this such and such? Like, come. I have this one friend she's an event planner and she's always like, it's a huge star-studded event. Like, but it's at night. And I'm like, man, not really my thing. Don't really care. Not my thing. And a lot of that comes from, if I'm being honest, fear, because I'm like, I'm way more better at natural light. I don't know how to use like all the flashes and stuff. I could go there with my camera and take some cool pictures, but to have the pressure on me as an artist to create something amazing in light that I'm not familiar with was like, and then I did it a couple of times. And I think it's important to push out of your comfort zone because that's the only way you're going to keep growing. And I've kind of reached this point in my career where I'm like, okay, I have all these goals and one of them I've had since I started my business. So it's I'm like, it's time to do that one, but I think you just need to really buckle down and do the work. And I don't really know. I don't know. I'm not an expert in this. I'm still trying to figure things out half the time. I think, and that's another thing to remind yourself.
But I think that's also really important. That what makes you an expert is you're just trying to figure it out and you're looking at what's working, what's not, and then what is next in terms of your goals. Is there any goals that you can share with us that is next?
Yeah. I've been wanting to do a gallery show for 10 years. And thank you. I've had a lot of people ask, like, do you shoot anything that I could buy? Like, I want to put your picture in my house. And I'm like, I mean, I have some, but nothing that I'm like in love with. And I really feel like this first 10 years, I mean, I know what I'm doing to an extent, but I feel like it has really prepared me for where I'm at now. And now I feel ready. I don't know if that makes sense, but I haven't felt this ready for something in a while. And so I've started and I'm also working with my therapist, who's awesome. She's like, Leyna, are we making time for our passion projects and and I really, really want to do a gallery show because just, again, connecting with people and seeing the way that your work strikes people and brings emotions out or whatever is such a special part of this job. And so I've started booking some shoots where it will hopefully be work that I want to present in a gallery, hopefully in the next 2 years. So
Okay, I love that. And we're going to hold that intention and goal for you as well and send Reiki to it. And I'm excited and I cannot wait. Just also going to set the intention that I get to come to and be there on that opening day night and celebrate that as well with you.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
I think that's amazing. I think it also goes to, though, with your dream, when people are doing vision boards and like, this is what I want, it, it sometimes may take 10 years, 14 years, and you can't rush to the end. You're in the marathon. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And you
Yeah.
have to let yourself enjoy every mile of the evolving, the growing, and learning, because what's going to happen is when you are getting to that end result of the gallery, the work that you're going to be able to create for it is so different than the work that you initially did, because you're so much more in your heart space. The way that you even view through the lens is probably different than what you see when you initially did it. Because initially, even though your work is amazing and you had confidence in it, there might have been some nerves like, oh my God, what am I doing? Can I do this? Holy moly. Whereas now you've been in the repetition of like, I'm doing it. I'm actually making a living out of it. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe even making more money than you made in television, which was a lot, which is amazing. And you have this like, this business that's in abundance and prosperity. And so you are then also committing then to growing that confidence. And then it's like you said, where it's like, okay, I'm going to step out now on the ledge. I feel uncomfortable. But that's because you're getting out of that comfort zone that you created for all these years now, which was the same thing with television. You were in television for 10 plus years. You've been doing this for 14 years?
Well, technically I started in 2010,
Okay.
but I'd say like really full time was 2011, late 2011,
Okay.
2012-ish. So yeah, I guess it's more like 12 or 13 years full time.
So still like, 10
Yeah.
years or so, over 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, and I just think sometimes when I'm working with my private clients, they're trying to rush to the end result. They're trying and not enjoy that creative process of like, because this is where the riches are coming in. Like, this is it. And what you're going to be able to create from that initial of like, oh my God, I don't really know what I'm doing, to sinking into, God, this was always a calling and I'm in it now and I'm flowing. That level of energetic, like confidence that's going to come through is going to end up creating all this incredible, like, just creativity from your heart that people are going to resonate with even more. And people already want to buy your work and put it on the wall. And it was just for you, like getting your human ready to get into that capacity for it.
Yeah, I feel that to my core. It's been a journey and it's still scary, I'm still vulnerable. I'm still like, oh my gosh, you're going to put photos like on display and people are going to, what if people don't like them, or what if, I don't know, all the what ifs. Yeah, it's really scary, but I think that that's what needs to happen, and that's where the growth happens. And you really just got to push through those uncomfortable parts of things to get to bigger and better things, for sure.
You also talked about, the training on how like our generation kind of was trained to think, which is hopefully the younger generations don't have it as much, because we've hopefully progressed and broken through some of the conditioning.
I
And
hope
part of it
so.
is the what ifs. Like, I think that, in my experience, I didn't understand how women didn't always have, I thought women had equal opportunities until I came into the workforce. And I had no idea that we weren't. And it was so shocking to me. And then it really kind of created, though, where I had to kind of prove myself 3 times more than our male counterparts at times. So do you feel like when you're kind of connecting into some of these things of like, I don't know if I can, or will they buy? Do you feel like there's any kind of conditioning you're still clearing out?
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah, for sure. And I'm doing, I less than before, I have done a lot of work on myself. So I feel like I've God, being in your 40s is just awesome. Let me just put that out there because I mean, 30s, even 30s are still a little touch and go. But when you're in your 40s, I don't know what it is, but I just feel my confidence is like solid. And I still have moments, of course, like anyone, but it's like I'm just such a stronger person at this age. So yeah, but still, yeah, I mean, it's really hard to break out of something that you've been conditioned your whole life to think. I mean, even in casting, I had a friend, I got him a job. I got him the job. And then we were talking and he got more money than I did. And I'm like, I recommended you. Like you have less experience than me. And he told me, he's like, you have to be willing to walk away. You have to, like, he helped me kind of learn how the game was played, but it was a female boss too, by the way. So it's like, I think you just really need to advocate for yourself because no one else is going to. And I've learned that the hard way many times. Um, but also like, I think Glennon Doyle says, like, we can do hard things. And I think that really has stayed with me because I really do feel like, you know what? You're right. Look how far I've come. Look how far you've come. Look at all the work we've done. Look at where we are now. Push through and let's do it, whatever it may be.
Which I'm so
Um,
excited for you in terms of the gallery event, whether it's a
oh,
year or 2 years, we're putting that out there for you. Cause yeah, we can
thank
do
you.
hard things and dreams can manifest and come true. And, both of us are living proof in, career transitioning, working in television, doing really hard things. And speaking of hard things, then, as somebody who's balancing being a mom and wanting to be present for your children, as well as having a successful business and also having a partner, balancing being a partner and being present for your partner and your family and friends. How do you maneuver all this? And do you have any tips for people?
Wow. Yeah. It's like an ever changing wheel that just I've had to learn to let go of control, which, we all like to control our lives. And I do think that, women say like, we can do it all. Like we can be a mom and have a business. And I think it's true. I think it is true, but I also think you need to be gentle with yourself. And, I had a nanny for many, many years, and that was really the only way I felt like I could do it all. And she was a magical unicorn and is a magical unicorn. We still see her every now and then and we love her to death. But about a year and a half ago, she left to do bigger and better things. And I wanted that for her. And as heartbroken as I was to lose her, it was also a push into another unknown, scary situation where I'm like, I don't feel like I'll ever find anyone as good as she was. But I also feel like maybe I can do this myself. Maybe I can go without and, it gets expensive to work to pay a nanny it's a lot. So, I would say there's no shame in having someone help because I think that's important. But I also didn't have her every day and I didn't have her all day because I wanted that time with my kids too. And I want my kids to, um, know me and spend time with me. And I think that's another thing from our childhood. Back in our day, it's like my mom was working on her PhD when I was like 11, 12, 13, the crucial like years for a girl. And as much as it like crushed me at the time to not have my mom available all the time, it also taught me that like hard work and perseverance are possible. So, I mean, I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend you get a nanny and like have that help. You can still be there for your kid. But I do think that it's possible. And I just think you need to set realistic expectations. Like have, actually one of the best pieces of advice I got from another photographer early on was set boundaries. Have boundaries. If your clients are still contacting you after 6 o'clock, don't respond. Just respond the next day. If you're with your kids and you have to be present with them at that time, you can get back to them. Like, they're not going to freak out, not always, but there's always, like, I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And at least for me, I put a lot of pressure on myself to get back to people right away and to deliver pictures fast and to be on top of stuff. And I don't always succeed. But for the most part, I'm very, very, very focused on, it's that television mentality of like everything needs to happen right now. And when I'm doing all the booking, all the locations, all the editing, all the planning, it's just me. And I've had every now and then an intern or something here and there, but they don't usually last long because they want to do their own thing and their own pictures. And so it's really just me. So I like to remind myself that you can only do so much. If you're burning the candle at both ends, you need to cut it out. You need to take that time to recharge. I mean, I've had clients call me on Mother's Day to ask, like, where are my pictures? And I'm like, it's Mother's Day. Like, I'm a human, I'm a person. Anyway,
That's a mother that has kids.
yeah, like
This is my day. Let me.
this is my one day. Right. Exactly. So, it's just, I think people can be really selfish and self-centered. Not all of them. I have amazing clients, but there are people out there who are just very focused on themselves. And I think that those are the types of people you need to protect yourself with. Like, you need to set boundaries for yourself, especially if you have other things that you want to focus on, and don't feel bad about it. It's like unapologetic. A couple of years ago, I decided that boundaries were important for me because I get very like worried about, I want people to love their experience with me and I want them to love their pictures and I want them to feel supported and I want them to know how much I care about this photo shoot, and then it's so much to a point where you like kill yourself for everyone else. And then you realize that you're suffering because you're killing yourself for everybody else. So I don't know. Again, I'm still working on it. I'm still finding my groove, but I think I'm pretty good at this point. And it's just, things are always changing. So last year I didn't have a nanny. Like, she came and helped me in the fall when I was slammed and busy season, but it was only one day a week and it helped and it was amazing, but I got through it and I was like, oh, I can do this.
You can do hard things.
I can do hard things. Like, I made it through. I'm really proud of myself. Look at all the money I saved on the nanny last year,
All the money I'm making, I saved.
I saved it this time. Yeah. Anyway, I think that it's just perseverance and you just need to take care of yourself too, because if you are the vessel that's providing a service, you need to take care of that vessel. It's just like a machine at a wood shop or something. You're going to oil your machine. You're going to give it time to rest, because if you keep working it, it's going to break. It's like, you've got to take care of yourself too. And I also think that positivity and people will see that freshness in your being, and it almost makes them want it more. You will have what you need business wise if you just, take a deep breath and try to center yourself once in a while.
You said so many things that are just, I think, so important. Where, again, talking about you had a calling with photography and you love it and the joy, but that doesn't mean that it's like skip to doo-dah, you're living in rainbows and unicorns all the time. And you're balancing
Right.
multiple things. And the person, who you were before is still evolving. And also, I think that, amazing, we learned amazing tools from TV. We did pick up some non-beneficial habits of being on call 24/7. And I don't know about
Yes.
you, but for me, I didn't even really understand how to have healthy boundaries around work because I was on call for 24/7.
Yeah.
And it was so hard. Like when I knew I needed to, okay, you do not need to text back right away. Oh my God, I feel guilty. Oh my God, are they going to be mad at me? Oh my God, am I going to lose the job?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's real. The pressure is real. It's like, and I don't know how much of it we put on ourselves and how much of it is real. It's hard to know because it varies person to person. But yeah, that is
It was
definitely
so,
a
and like,
tough.
and then just watching myself go through it, and you're like you said, breathe. And I would be using the tools, breathe. And what's interesting is I've had so many clients say to me, God, I've learned so much from you on how to have healthy boundaries. Like you don't always get back to me right away. In your off hours, you're really off. And I swear, what? What type
You're
of
like, no, actually, if I'm not responding, I'm stressing about not responding. So, oh my gosh.
And so it's really interesting, like, okay, wherever you go, there you are, which is then why, still using, the different tools. Like, I love that you go to, therapy and you have this relationship with your therapist, and she really calls you to task on, like, how are you evolving? How are you growing? You said this a couple of years ago. What's happening now?
Yeah.
And that is amazing because to have somebody, be that loving and caring in a professional way in your life, that they're interested, they heard what you said, and they're nudgingly in a caring way. Okay, isn't it time to fly? Isn't it time to do that? Isn't it time to
Yeah.
try? I just think that's amazing. And I'm just so happy that you have that person. Another thing that I want to talk about is I've also seen you mention about exercising, and you've gone on a whole new exercise journey. And I know that it seems like I'm kind of like outgoing from your entrepreneur work, but I think it's just something important to add in because you talked about the balance and how important exercise is. So what was it for you and how has it been?
I've never been a person who likes to work out. I've always complained. I love, I lived in Venice for many years and I would just ride my bike down to the beach. Like
That's
that's
Venice, California,
exercise.
everybody.
Oh yeah, Venice. Yeah, Venice, California. I would just go down to the beach and ride, and I love hiking and I love like outdoor stuff. But gyms and workout classes, I've always just been so like uninspired or unmotivated to go to stuff like that. And I think that when you have kids, so much of your attention and an energy goes toward their needs. And you really forget that you're a person too, and that you need to be taken care of too. And this all goes back to the workplace too. It's like that balance, right? Where I get consumed with my kids and they're making lunches and, washing clothes and all the stuff that for many, many years, I was the last on the list, and then work. And then I'd work myself into the ground. And as you get older, or as I was getting older, I just felt like I don't even recognize myself anymore in that way. I was like, who am I? Like I love fashion. I love like wearing cute outfits and I wasn't even doing that anymore. You just kind of forget who you are. And thankfully, my kids are at an age where I have a little more free time and I'm not changing diapers anymore and all of that. So I started kind of seeing little pockets of time like, oh, like I have time to like pick a good outfit or put a little makeup on today. Like maybe I'll do that. And my best friend inspired me as well. Cecilia, she's like started putting makeup on every day. She's like, I just realized that I was in a better mood. It's not for anybody else but me. I just wanted to wear makeup. And every day I spend 10 minutes and I put some makeup on and I just feel better, And I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. So yeah, so I would say, sorry, totally off topic. I my other best friend is a nutritionist. And so I sort of decided like I need to lose some weight. I got really depressed during the pandemic and I completely lost all inspiration to do anything. And I just felt heavy and sad and all of it, you know. And so I decided I was like, I'm going to crack down on my nutrition. So she started kind of helping me with that. And I lost like 30 pounds. I didn't want to go crazy, but I was like, I just feel like I need to get back in shape, like it's going to help. And then they opened a Bunda. I don't know if you've heard of
I don't know.
Bunda.
What is that?
So it's a company and I don't want to butcher it. I do not work for them. They do not pay me, but I've recruited so many people to go to Bunda because I am the poster child of like, I don't like it. I don't want to work out, but I fell in love with Bunda. And Bunda is a program where it's better butt, better body. And the science says that if you have a strong butt, then your back is stronger, your knees are stronger, all of it. And when I'm squatting and standing so much for my job, and I could feel my body struggling. And it's my job. I'm like, I want to get stronger. And so my girlfriend was like, you have to try Bunda and they're opening one by your house. And I was like, oh, okay. And she'd been telling me to come to Bunda for years. And I'm like, I'm not driving to Santa Monica to go to Bunda. I'm not doing it. Like, no. And she's like, they're opening one by your house. You have no excuse. Like, you need to go. And so I kind of like, you know, messaged the people and they hadn't opened yet. And I ended up signing up. And like the women who work there are just the best vibes. And it's such a place of love and support and encouragement. And I went the first day and I was like, okay, like that wasn't too bad. I know it's their first day open, so they were going a little bit easy on us, but I was like, I kind of liked it. And then I was like, I'm going to book another class or two. And then I went again and I went again. And I'm almost to 170 classes since last February. And my body is completely changed. But what I was just talking about this last night, what I didn't realize is that that's like the lowest on the importance. The way that I feel is so life changing. Like I feel stronger. I feel like I hold my head higher. I feel so good. And I don't know if it's like endorphins or what it does, but it's like, I just, now I get it. Now I get why people do these horrific workout classes because I'm like, I mean, I know. And my other friend joined and she is the same. She's like, I hate working out, but because you also hated working out, I will try this class. And now she's obsessed. So I'm like, I don't know what it is. I couldn't tell you, but I do know how it makes me feel and it makes me feel great. And it's also 1 hour a day where I don't have to think. I just do what they tell me to do and I sweat my ass off and my kids aren't whining at me and my husband's not, you know, we're not talking about house stuff or life stuff or kid stuff. And it's just like my hour to be with myself. And it is so nice in that way too. I don't think I ever really realized how important exercise was until this past year.
Which is, by the way, amazing. I feel like this whole conversation is really about the aspect of you really can do hard things and you might sometimes do things you don't even really like and end up falling in love with it. And then also just how these things can support you in not only your everyday, but also your work. Because wanting to have like a strong, healthy body is a goal. But there might be plenty of days you're like, oh, I don't want to go, or I don't like gyms, but not to give up. And I feel like that's just been the central theme of this whole talk is really not to give up. And that right around the corner, there's going to be, is it Bunda?
Yeah.
Right around the corner is going to be your Bunda.
You find your bunda.
Find your bunda.
You'll find it. Oh my gosh. I mean, truly, like my friends that have known me forever are like, what is this class? Like, what are you doing?
You know what? I'm going to just say it
it's
right here, right
crazy.
now. I'm going to go and try a bunda class.
Yes, try a bunda.
Because I'm looking for something. I'm now in menopause, and
Oh,
I know. God, speaking of blessings for women,
I know, right? Oh,
I
we're
don't know.
lucky.
We're so lucky. We're so blessed. And I just went on hormone therapy back in October, and my body definitely, like, it feels like you go to bed and you wake up and you're like, wait a minute, I'm a hormone person.
Oh my gosh,
It is.
really?
I mean, so it is like last year I had to really there were some factors from menopause. I was in inflammation and things like that that I had to heal. So now that I have all of that understanding, like the nutrition part and all these other things, I feel like I'm ready to reinvest in my physical aspect in a whole new way because I can
Yeah.
have more of the mobility. Last year when I was going through the inflammation, I had like major knee pain and things like that from inflammation that made it difficult. But now I feel like I'm ready. And so I'm gonna say,
Oh, good.
I'm gonna go, you inspired me. I'm gonna go try a bunda class.
Yes, you have to
So
tell me what you think when you're done. I mean, it really, I, I would, it really changes you like in a short amount of time. Like I would say even in a month, if you go a few days a week or four times a week, let's say, you'll see a transfer. Like it is crazy. They're opening everywhere. So I'm sure they're successful in so many ways, but it's just like, for me, it's been a life changer for sure.
amazing. And two, like you
Yeah.
said, doing the squats and, making sure that you're able to continue doing the work that you love to do.
Yes.
It's just a
Yes.
part of it. And I think that's just amazing and inspiring. So I'm gonna check that out. So before we wrap up, is there any other pearls of wisdom that you could give to somebody who maybe it could be anything. Maybe they are also a photographer. Maybe they didn't go to college for the training or they just have this calling in their heart, or maybe they want to do a career transition and, maybe they're in their, 50s and 60s and they're kind of scared. What would be some advice that you may have wanted to hear as you were doing these transitions?
Um, I think that what comes to mind right off the bat is just follow your heart, because I think that if you listen to your heart, you will, like, it doesn't lie to you. You're gonna, like, you're in good hands. Like, push through that fear, push through the what ifs, um, and just go for it. And I think that the same is true for starting in television. Like I set out for a goal and I wanted to work in television. All I did was start talking to people about it. And I talked to my friend so and so who knew so and got me a job on whatever show it was, Winbenstein's Money, I think. I don't remember if you worked on that. But anyway, it was like before I knew it, I was like working on stages and I was like, oh my gosh, I did it, and it's not, I mean, I don't want to say it's not that hard because it can be. It depends on what you're trying to do. But I mean, I really think that if you push through and do the work, it's going to happen for you. I just truly, truly believe that. And I think that you should not get discouraged and you should not take bad advice and you should do it the way you want to do it and follow your heart and learn from mistakes and you will get there. It's just a matter of time and
And be
patience.
patient. Yeah,
Yeah.
patience.
Yeah.
Patience.
I think patience is important.
The other thing that I'll add as an entrepreneur that I cultivated and brought in for myself is a bookkeeper who I work with monthly because I'm really creative and I can teach meditation, energy healing, do these energy healing sessions, but I found, could I do the bookkeeping? Yes. But I found the bookkeeping by myself was really hard. I was like, oh, I gotta do the bookkeeping. It was like
There's
going to
always
the
going
gym.
to be,
It was like going
there's
to the
always going to be something about the job that isn't ideal. There's always going to be something. So if
So
you can outsource that, 1000%
so
save yourself that hassle.
I found a bookkeeper, and it's funny. So once a month I meet with her. So we go over everything. I don't have it as much, but I still have like I gotta do it. She's asking me questions. Do
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's like little tedious parts of every job that are gonna be like,
So are there any parts for your job but you let yourself move through it? Like, are there any parts of it that you don't love?
At first I didn't love the editing. I was like trying to find someone I could outsource to. I was like, I just want to go take the fun pictures and then let someone else deal with it. But what I realized pretty quickly is that that's such a big part of the creative process, and nobody did it the way I wanted them to do it. No matter how many back and forths we had, it just never came back perfect. And I was still, or perfect in my opinion, and I was still having to go through every picture myself. So I'm like, well, I may as well just build this into my day to day and build it into my pricing and build it into all the stuff and figuring out like how many shoots can I do in a week and not get bogged down or behind or completely overwhelmed with editing has been a huge, huge part of my work process. And my kind of evolving as a company and a business. But like, that's why the best shoots are the ones for the big companies that are like, just give us all the raws and we'll have our in-house editors do it. I'm like, oh, amazing. Like, yes. And, sometimes I'm like, but I want to edit that because blah, blah. But I've kind of found my workflow, and that does take a minute to find that flow. But also the money. I mean, thankfully my husband is like a book nerd, and he's like a tech connoisseur. He just loves all that stuff. So at some point I was like, can you just take my money and pay our bills? Like, can you deal with it? And so he's my bookkeeper.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah, I call him my CFO because I'm always like, I don't know, like I don't even want to charge anyone. If we didn't have to pay bills, I would be like, let's go take pictures. Like, I love this. But yeah, I mean, the editing is definitely a struggle, and some photographers love it, but I truly believe that true photographers are not in love with the editing part. I mean, at least a lot of them that I know. You have to really learn that. That part was a law, like a learning curve. I mean, when I look at edits from my first couple of years in business, I'm like, oh God, I'm sorry. I'm so much better at it now.
I'm sure they probably still were amazing because you have, again, your essence in your eye is just so incredible. I will say though, like in TV though, when you're in post-production, that experience that you're talking about is very similar, where you have all the raw footage and you're like, oh my God. But then you're like, oh wait, there's something here, and you start going in it. And there's a moment where you said it. It's not like about being perfect, but it is perfect in its creation. And you kind of feel it. You're like, oh, it clicks in.
Yeah.
And then from there, you'd be able to give somebody else it because what it needs to be is there, and they could, kind of fine tune whatever else needs to be. But enough of that creation was there. So I totally get that. But it is a lot easier to go shoot something like for a TV show than to have to come back with the hours and hours and being like, oh my God.
Right. Oh, now I have to go through all of it. And I'm an overshooter. So because I shoot a lot of candids and my style is very like authentic to the moment and the movement and all of that stuff, I shoot so much. And I've had friends be like, why do you shoot so much? Like, why do you take so many? And I'm like, because like all of those pictures, those favorites up there would not have happened if I wasn't like, you just like, it's part of it. It's just part of the process for me. And so I've just kind of figured out how to work with it and just deal with the fact that I shoot like 1,000 pictures an hour.
Wow.
So it's going through all of those and pulling the best ones. And then it's going through all of those and editing them. And then, it's just such a process. But I love it all. I've learned to love it all. It's just freaking, a lot. It's really the logistics that I dread. I'm like, I've often thought about having an assistant come and, just do all my booking, but my clients, I've got such personal relationships with all of them. I just would feel so silly being like, talk to Janet, she'll get you set up. It's like,
Is that
I don't know.
because
I don't
is
know
that
what part I
because
can outsource.
is that because of when you're working with clients, you're really discovering like their essence of who they are, and then you're connecting it already to probably maybe the
Yes.
pictures you're gonna take?
Yes, all of it. To me, it's like start to finish. I want to hear their thoughts. I want to know where their head is at. I want to know what they're worried about so I can ease that a little bit or work with them or be aware of it so that I can, help balance it somehow. Um, but yeah, it's definitely a process that I just really enjoy the personal contact with it all. And I do really miss casting. I've been working on another project where I want to combine like interviewing people and taking their picture because I want to like I want to sit down and have a coffee with you afterwards and be like, so tell me everything. Like, what have you been up to? There's so much more to it um
It's the
than people have
storytelling.
time for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the connection to the story that you're getting into. So it's not even just about the
Yeah.
logistics. Is those first pre-calls that you're doing is you're getting to know who they are, their story. So that way
Yeah.
then that translates though. That translates into the pictures that you're taking because I feel like I really know and can feel who these people are through the photos you take, which
Oh,
is
I love that.
the pre-production that you're doing. You're listening to their story, and from there your pictures reveal their truth of who they are because you took time to get to know who they are in their heart.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. That means so much because that is such a big part. And I've taken 1,000 like perfectly posed, everyone smile at the camera photos, and those are never the ones I want to share because to me, that's just the icing on the cake. Like I want to get into the layers. I want to get down into the bottom of the cake. I don't want to be on top, the surface. I want to tell your story and I want it to be like to me I'm thinking less about the perfect image and more about like something that these people can pass down to generation to so that their ancestors or however the reverse of that is these people can look back at pictures of their ancestors and be like, oh my gosh, he seemed really funny or he seemed really serious or whatever it was. And that goes for not just the family shoots I do but for the brands too. It's like I want if I'm selling a kids clothing line or a female woman owned clothing line, I want it to ooze that like female empowerment and that like or the kids I want them to look comfortable and I want everything to feel really natural and I don't know but yeah it's all like part of it. It's people don't often think about the things that go into I'm sure your business as well. um but you can tell real quick if someone's not going to gel with you, like if you aren't on the same page, then I'd rather we just go separate ways. Like I don't want to just take a picture of you guys smiling at me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to like dig a little deeper into this and make art for your walls instead of like, anyway, I'm
Which is
rambling.
the heart connection. And I think when I worked in TV, I used to always like look for the heartbeat of the story in pre-production, production, and post-production. And I really feel like that's what you're doing with photography is that you're really finding the heartbeat of the essence of each person, which then allows that to be art on their wall. And you can feel that essence of the love, which is just so incredibly beautiful.
Thank you. That means like everything to me, truly.
Well, thank you for sharing your gift. So now if people want to work with you, if they want to follow you, where can they find you?
So, I have yellowheartphotography.com is my website. At yellowheartphotography is my Instagram. That's mostly my work with kids and families and children's clothing lines and such. And then I have leynanoelani.com or at Leyna Noelani for Instagram. And that's, I don't know. I don't want to spell it. Just come find me. I'm around. You'll find me. If you really want to find me, you'll find me. I'm like, that's my like adult work with, adults. I just felt like some of my pictures are a little more risque with adults. And so I feel like I had a really hard time figuring out the social media part for like Yellow Heart and like, when I shot with like Malin Ackerman for a clothing line, it's like, it doesn't really translate into one. I don't know. I'm probably overthinking it too, but, anyway, so all of my other like main stuff is there. And then I have Yellow Heart, but I'm that Leyna chick. That's really who I am.
Yes.
I'm that Leyna chick. Come and find me. Let's talk.
I'm going to put it on the show notes too, of where you can find. And then also, they can reach out to you on the Yellow Heart Photography. And I can't say it enough. If you are looking for a photographer to book, reach out to Leyna. She is amazing. And you also go places too. Sometimes you go to New York and other places, right? It's not just in California.
Yeah, I do. I have some clients in New York and they fly me out once a year. And then I have some clients in San Francisco. So I go up there every year, and Napa, Boston. I'll go anywhere.
Okay,
I mean,
great, because we have we're in like 19 countries, and so I'm just gonna put it out there. So if there's somebody in another country that wants to pay Leyna to come and do this amazing photography for their family, she would be up for it. So
I love traveling. It's just like a whole new world of inspiration when I travel. I love it. I love it.
It is amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining. I so appreciate you, and I'm just so happy just to see where you are, and just to have been able to witness it is just such an honor. So thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Always.
So before we go, we always delink. And so you can say after me, if this resonates, I ask to break the links with this podcast. I ask to break the Reiki links, leaving only harmony and balance at other ends. I also ask to clear any residual energies being held in my body as a result of these links. I ask light Reiki to fill all the void, cells, rejuvenates, refreshing, revitalizing for the highest good with ease and grace. And so it is. May peace be with all of you. Thank you so much. Much love, my friends. Until soon.